Hello, everyone. I am Fabian with CrystalSavatar.com, and we will be continuing our Secret Mysteries of Ascension in Atlantis and Egypt playing list series. And this is part 3. And today we'll be talking about the Ceres Egyptians, the Hebrews, the Urtites, and about the Temple Wars. It was for a period of time following the creation of the Ark of the Covenant portal. And the Earth went through this little period of rebalancing its energetic grid. Because we talked about some of the not so pleasant things that have happened to our world. And we're not over with those dramas, are we? Even now, much less within our story. And this is about 800,000 years ago. Several groups of humans, they returned to Earth to return from where? Well, they turned to begin preparation of the third seeding, which would be orchestrated through the Ark of the Covenant portal bridge. So now this is part of our heritage. This is part of our origins of where the humans come from and the different races involved are different Earthseed races, and outside we have different other stellar ET races, extraterrestrial. So there were two primary groups of returning humans: the Ceres Egyptians and the Hebrew from the second seeding. First of all, okay, so the Egyptians, they were a subrace of the Atlantean root race. That's what the original Egyptian was. I have talked in the previous videos about how races break down into subraces, and the subraces break down into different families. Well, that's what they're connected to. So realize literally that the Egyptians are Atlanteans. But that imprint, of course, it has been changed and modified and upgraded. So many times. So now there's a few types of Egyptians. When you start messing around with DNA and genetics and hybridizing beings, you're going to get different versions. Just like they did what I talked about the Neanderthals, they did it in different versions at different stages. So the Ceres Egyptians, are a hybridized, upgraded version that became the primary Egyptian strain in the royal pharaonic line. So the royalty of those periods and dynasties and families. So they were hybridized, not just with those starseed races, but with a hybrid bird race called the Ceres, Serres, from density 3, which is a highly evolved etheric race. Because I talk about the levels of matter, and you got carbon-based, carbon etheric, and then you have etheric, and that's what they are, the oversouls. So it gave them a lot of extra coding to those Egyptians to try to get some. They're getting rid, of some of the negative Anunnaki distortions, that is happening in the gene codes there, because that's what those dark races are into, messing and distorting, mutating us, and they do it in our DNA. And so it's like a spiritual war. So you end up with basically ordinary Egyptians, which had more negative Anunnaki coding, infiltration, like we just stated, and so distorted DNA. Then you have the upgraded Ceres Egyptians, which came in to recalibrate the whole DNA pattern. So, and they were made in seeding 2. Here we are, seeding 3. So, but that was when everything had went crazy during that 1,000 Years War, and most of them were taken to Sirius B in density 2, a higher level, so of Taurus. So, and that's where they evolved, which made them extraterrestrial. These races, the Ceres Egyptians and Hebrews, made them different. You're on a different planet. You're amongst different beings. You're combining with those beings. So it's like well, actually, there's some sort of proof that goes with this. If you look at some of the Egyptian artwork, the hieroglyphs, some of the the special royal Egyptians are depicted with elongated heads, what are they? Right? I mean, come on, we supposedly came out of the apes, huh? Right? That's what they say. That's what the program is. That's what we're being told. You're being told you are. So we supposedly, it's like nonsense. They fed us all kinds of nonsense. We didn't come out of the apes. We came out of the starseed races, and such, which are ET beings from Sirius B, you know, human hybrids with the elongated skulls. And so the starseed races had these elongated skulls. That's what they look like. Um, and we have different sources, showing these heads and who had these heads. If you look at the statues of Akhenaten that runs around, well, now Akhenaten didn't have the head like that. I hate to disappoint the Egyptians, but he absolutely loved the Anu starseed races. So well, like many humans, they try to make himself appear as that internally like connected to this head, but forever, because that was his affiliation, and this is what we have in our starseed races. It's part of who we are. When we know that we're combining these Sirius B starseed race, some of them, and Earth seeds, then okay, we're part of these races. We're part of the elongated heads. That's part of our families, our sub races, our races that we're finding. We're finding proof. You want proof, but it's some type of condition. It's some type of genetic defects or something. Oh, rationalization, but it's the shape that went with the starseed races. And there were variations that went with it, like the Rama races of Inner Earth. And that's what anyone you can go see on Nefertiti's tomb, for example. So there is another special group, actually, too, that we want to talk about in seeding 2, called the Hebrew. Now, we have a lot of talk about the Hebrews, even from their own material, some special type of human, maybe. But the original Hebrew people, the Hebrew Pleiadians, because this is where they got evacuated to when they were taken off the planet in the second seeding, the Pleiades. And they evolved there for a time, until the third seeding. It's kind of like what the Egyptian Hebrews evolved on Sirius B. Well, the Hebrews are evolving in the Pleiades. So, it's like another planet in different conditions, different consciousness, different planet consciousness, different evolution. And so, but we had groups of extraterrestrial Egyptians and Hebrews during this time. So the Hebrew Pleiadians were actually a mixed starseed race. They were, it's like sometimes you don't want to talk about this information because the low energies and distortions and vibrations and consciousness down here is just going to take this information the wrong way. We're not trying to do anything or say anything except talk about the hybrids, okay? They're half Melchizedek starseed, which is, the advanced starseed that went with the fifth root race, the Melchizedeks, and the Movarians, which is not even here yet. So, and these Hebrews were also half Hebrew starseed, which went with the Aryan race. So they were taking two starseeds to make a hybrid starseed, in one. Why? So they would have an even stronger coding. That's the way the races look at it. How do you look at it? Oh, prejudice. Oh, pride, arrogance, superiority. Oh, so they were taking them and making the races stronger, which you would call a bi-starseed. 2 bi-starseed. So realize that the Hebrews are a bi-starseed, and who have also evolved for a time in the Pleiades. So much respect to those origins. So there's also something called TriStar seeds, which I talk about in my extraterrestrial races video. So they had these two amped up races, basically the royal Ceres Egyptians from Sirius B, and the Hebrew by starseed Pleiadians. Okay, and well, these races were like commissioned by the Palladorians of Tara. You know, these high level races we call founder races, or just kind of like just higher dimensional races that are helping us, like teachers, like parents, like they care, they love, if they're part of Love and Light. This is our heritage, you guys. You hear us talking about ETs, you think it's all nonsense, but understand this is the ordinary, commonplace. Not only was, you know, by the Polydorians, but also the Elohim, and also commissioned this, and also the Raw Confederacy, you know, to orchestrate the third seeding. And upon returning to Earth, you know, these Egyptian, Ceres Egyptians and the Hebrews, well, they discovered, wow, there was a small group of survivors, wow, remaining from the second seeding. So, and they were actually descendants of the third race, Lemanians. You know, like I talk about the different seedings, so there's different versions, and you know, which is an earlier version of Lemurian, and they're Antrian starseed. The Ceres Egyptians, well, they've been exiled on Sirius B, and in the Pleiadian star systems as also, actually, and thus now they carried like a stronger ET imprint, you know, within like their genetic codes. So they took their DNA and they interbred with the Lemanians and their companions, their Antrian starseed race. You know, because this is, you got to realize there's original races, founder races, the first ones. There was some first ones. Those races create races under them, and those races create races, you know, in the lower densities, in the lower dimensions. And then here we are, some children of some children of some children of some ancestors, you know. So it's like so they started making these combinations, you know, and forming a new guardian race between them, called the Earthites. And it was actually necessary to create the Earthites because they were needed to be the host race. A seeding needs a host race. They needed one host race, and that was the Earthites. So they were the host race for the third seeding. The first seeding host race was, I even talked about them, the Urtarinates, and the second seeding, the host race was the Dagos. And I just want to make a side note, because I mentioned this a little bit in the other video, but this has something to do with the Dogon of West Africa, who happen to say that they're also from Sirius B. Oh, interesting. Who also talk about extraterrestrials, this tribe from Africa, talk about ETs, yeah, and their true origins of humankind. They list it in detail. Don't the Hindus also list some pretty ancient background story? So anyways, in the third seeding, it was the Urtites. And refers to light. It's actually really an ancient Anuhazi language where it started, you know. Remember, the Anuhazi are the first race that the primal races made, which is the cat race, the Anuhazi, the blue cat race. So it was their language, were the first language, and it came from there. This meaning, it means light, or light of the one, and is what it really originally meant. When you see like priest of or the Urtites, it's an affiliation of an ascended, like, mastery level, is what it meant to mean. You know, the meaning was lost a long time ago, but so our third seeding came through the Urtites. So this is an important name. We want to give respect and honor to the host race of all the races for the third seeding, which is still happening, by the way. So, and which is basically, the Urtites are basically a Ceres Egyptian hybrid, right? And our seeding finally began about 800,000 years ago. That's how ancient this version of us is. So when you take this version of us and that version of us and that version of us and the density 2 version of us, you see how many years there is, really. This is what we talk about. This is what we sharing and reminding you about. So a lot of things have happened, right, between then and now. So the most important things is that these races evolved for a while, the Urtites, and the Urtites became, the host race for the other races now. And the Urtites they live primarily underground and within the inner Earth civilizations to get this other civilizations going, right? So they developed themselves down there, serving as like guardians of the Ark of the Covenant portal. So, but when conditions on Earth were conducive to supporting mass surface life, the Earthites were given authority by the Syrian Council, the Ra Confederacy, and the priests of Ur and Antara to begin the third seeding of the human lineage. So it's kind of like, you think they're authority figures. They're not authority figures. You understand, and I mean, you respect them as guardians that know more, that have been through more, because they're in the higher densities, So we're not saying everything in the higher density is better, or good, But anyways, they begin the third seeding, and so many sub-races and families emerged through the Urtite genetic strain. And each of the 5 starseed races birthed, through their race line through the Urtite host race, okay? They didn't bring in the Earthseed races yet, okay? This is just the starseed period of time, like a large period of time that they developed and, kind of like set the path up for an environment and preparing the Earth seeds, because we have the star seeds. They're more evolved literally in their DNA. They're our teachers. They're the host of us. They help us to get through our strand of DNA. So they first put through the Urtites was the Antrians, the Brunois, the Hibiru, the Melchizedek, and the Uniseti, all starseed races first. So, and they evolved for a while, and some of them intermixed. And already these star seeds were hybrid star seeds. You take this one and combine them. Now they're 2 star seeds. You guys think of it in a bad way, a negative way. You're diluting, polluting, degenerating. Well, it depends on what races. If you're taking the fallen angelic DNA template, that's something else. But but the hybrid star seeds, this hybrid ones, the more than one, the bi-star seeds, tri-star seeds, they were brought through the Ceres Egyptians. Those were amped up ones, and the Hebrews were amped up race, and so and also the Urtite imprint itself was amping up our gene code. So when you amp up the gene code, well, you accelerate the evolution. We got some great genetics, literally, so it's in there. We were putting it together. That's what we're talking about here. And we give the biological form the capacity, right? Greater than, what they had to bring in higher levels of consciousness more quickly. And that's why it was done that way. Because they were trying to get to this going. It was already seeding number 3. The other 2 seedings were destroyed. So, when are we going to get this done? So, you're going to say, are they cheating? This is the races doing what they can do to compensate for this tax of the Anunnaki resistance. So, so they amped it up this time to try to get us past the finish line, hopefully, right? We'll see. The most important things that, affected us and the agendas, because we got different ideas of how they want the evolutions to go, different DNA strategies, different agendas that are happening now. And this began about 669,000 years ago. So we're kind of like coming down from the 800,000, 669. We're getting down, down, down. And it was during this starseed period, before the Earthseed races even got here. So, but the first thing that caused these problems, actually big problems, and divided the things up into your basic 3 matrices of DNA, the 3 agendas, was something called the Temple Wars. Okay? Now, these were temples way before even the Egyptian, we call them ancient Egyptian temples, or some people, and we call them ancient, but no, there's much more ancient temples, and they're very, very deep down in the Earth's crust. And well, they're remnants of these temples underground. These temples, the Egyptian temples, are they? No, that's what we're saying. They're much more ancient and much more. And they found pieces, remnants. They started finding these little pieces, and they don't fit the Egyptian periods nor the Amenti period. They are older than that. Some of them. So, and I even talk about the secret space program. I've shown you, what they to talk about in detail and confirm. They have technology. We don't have this technology. No, they have this technology. It's what I said. We don't have it. They have it. They have this technology. We don't have it. It's a secret. That's why it's called the secret space program. And has already confirmed, there is people who speak out, these undergrounds, they use a ground penetrating low frequency backscattered wave pattern device. Oh, do you have one of those? I don't. They have it. So, and with this technology, they have found like gigantic pyramids. Oh, are they going to tell you? Did they tell you? Did they tell me? No, they didn't tell me or you. So, but they were 10 times the size of Giza here in North America. It's part of our race. It's part of our heritage, but it's a secret apparently. So, but they're here in North America, very large area too. Like a kind of like an aquifer around it, its own atmosphere. So I talk about this in my Inner Earth video. So check that out. This is knowledge. We're bringing you knowledge, Templar knowledge, inner Templar about the, what we're made of and what we're designed here to do. So it's actually exciting to have, like the secret space program or some other source to confirm some of this information. And, it just feels good. It feels really good. And this is a spiritual war, and to see some other light workers and beings doing successful, that's a good thing. And the relics, and there are some things, that were left behind. You want proof? I said there's proof. There's proof. Are you accepting even some of this proof? So there are some things called signets, and they were left behind, which are advanced technology, okay? Which are magnetic discs, which are basically, you could say, keys to those stargates. There's at least 5 signets on the planet, and there's 12 altogether. There's also things that are like being found in different areas, not just Egypt, but other countries, and this is all part of our heritage. Some of you lived during these temple wars, and there was basically 3 major temple wars. I mean, they were warring all over the place, but the 3 big ones, and they first started around this period of time, 669,000 years ago. And, I mean, you're not going to hear this information. You're hearing different information, aren't you? Other creeds, other false creeds. So, I mean, you can either feel or you don't feel. So there are 3 big ones. And the first one started around this period, and it was called, well, it was also like a nickname or not the nickname. It was called the Vegan Wars, because where it really started was in Vega, planet system, Vega, Lyris star system also, and this was in density 3 and 4. So it wasn't even our war. It was their war. It was the Elohim War, and it came out of the group of the ancient negative Elohim, because there's good Elohim, but we talk about the different versions. There's good human, bad human. There's good Pleiadian, bad Pleiadian. There's good Elohim, bad Elohim. Okay, they severed their connection from source. They wanted dominion over the Lyran system. I don't want to get too sidetracked with the Temple Wars, but actually I should make a separate video about that time period. There's a lot to say, there's a lot to share, and it's part of who we are. Now, you guys, that ends today's video, and we're going to continue this series, and we're going to continue to part 4. So you guys, please like my video. This was a lot of work. It's like what I want to express and think about and share like full time. And so if any of you want to help out and support this channel, you know this is a real thing. This is the real deal. We don't mess around. This is truth. This is our heritage. This is meant to happen during this ascension process. It helps to awaken and enlighten you Indigo. Some of you are Indigo. Thank you for following the series. Please like, please subscribe, and leave comments, questions. I check those out. I answer them as fast as I can. And there's a lot more to talk about. Please continue to the next video. Peace. Namaste, holy ones. Chiwa.